All right, so let's jump right into something that's always kind of bugged me. Have you ever just looked at a map and thought, how can two places right next door to each other be so different? We're talking about Central America and the Caribbean. I mean, they're practically neighbors, right? But culturally, linguistically, they're like different planets. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on why that is. And that's really the heart of the mystery, isn't it? You can trek all through Central America, and it's Spanish, Spanish, Spanish. But then you hop on a boat to the islands, and suddenly you're hearing English, French, Dutch, and all these amazing Creole languages. This didn't just happen by chance. It's history talking to us loud and clear.
Yeah, just look at this. It's so stark when you put it side by side. Central America looks like it was all painted with the same brush, Spanish. And then the Caribbean is this incredible patchwork quilt of languages. It tells a story of a huge fight for control, and that's the story we're going to unravel. So, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to rewind way back, before any European empires even showed up on the scene. We need to check out the incredible civilization that really set the stage in Central America.
Long before anyone from Europe had even thought of sailing west, Central America was the heartland of the Mayan civilization. And we're not just talking about a few scattered villages here. These guys were building breathtaking pyramids, they were mapping the stars with incredible accuracy, and they had these complex farming methods supporting huge cities. Their world was ancient and sophisticated, but their entire world was about to be turned completely upside down by the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors.
Okay, and right here, this is the moment everything changes. The arrival of European powers literally sends Central America and the Caribbean down two totally different historical paths, and those paths are what created the regions we see today. This is where the road splits big time. Spain, for the most part, planted its flag on the mainland. They created this massive, unified colonial territory in Central America, imposing their language, their religion, their whole system. But the Caribbean? Oh man, that was the Wild West of the seas. It was a total free-for-all. Britain, France, the Netherlands, everybody wanted a piece of the pie, and they were willing to fight tooth and nail for every last scrap of land.
But here's the twist. Even though they had different rulers, both of these regions got caught up in the exact same economic whirlwind. And feeding that global demand created a really dark, shared chapter in their history. And it all boiled down to one thing. Something sweet, but with a truly bitter history. Sugar. Europe suddenly had this massive, unstoppable craving for it, and these tropical lands were the perfect spot to grow sugarcane. This wasn't just a factor, it was the engine driving everything, and it would change the very soul of these places forever.
You know, the terrible logic of it all was depressingly simple. 1. Europe's sweet tooth for sugar went through the roof. 2. The colonizers tried to force the native people to work the fields, but between disease and resistance, it just wasn't enough. So, 3. They turned to a different continent and began the horrific, massive, forced importation of enslaved people from Africa. That became the brutal engine powering the whole colonial machine.
So, fast forward a few centuries, and you can feel this rumble of change in the air. People are fighting for independence. But freedom didn't automatically mean unity, not even close. Instead, it kicked off a whole new era of breakups and divisions that drew the lines on the map we see today.
I mean, for a hot minute there, after they broke away from Spain, the countries of Central America actually did it. They formed one big, united country. But it fell apart almost as soon as it began. So, what happened? Why did this dream of a united Central America just crumble?
Well, it really boils down to one word: power. The local leaders, the strongmen in each region, they didn't want to listen to some central government. They wanted their own little kingdoms, their own armies, their own taxes. And that ambition just shattered the whole thing. At the same time, over in the Caribbean, independence didn't bring them together either. It just cemented those old colonial divisions, locking in separate British, French, and Dutch identities on each island.
And of course, there's another major player entering the game now, the United States. Through what's called the Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. basically drew a line in the sand and told the European powers to stay out of the Americas. Now, on one hand, this helped protect the independence of these brand new countries. But on the other, it basically opened the door for a new kind of influence and intervention from their powerful neighbor to the north.
So, okay, let's bring it all back to the beginning. We followed this thread from ancient civilizations, through colonialism all the way to independence, and now we can see how all those pieces fit together. This stuff isn't just dead and buried in history books. You can see it and hear it everywhere in these regions today.
And there it is. That's the solution to our puzzle. Spain's laser focus on the mainland, that's why you hear Spanish in Central America. That chaotic, multi-empire scramble for the islands, that's why the Caribbean is this incredible mix of English, French, and Dutch. And the brutal economic system they all relied on, the slave trade, left a deep, shared African heritage that's a powerful part of the culture in both places. It's a tragic legacy so important that the UN has a day every year to remember it.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. We can see so clearly how the past shaped the present in Central America and the Caribbean. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What invisible threads from the past are pulling on the world you live in right now?